Hi, Jen. Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome back to New York, ma'am.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, that's great. So, Rochelle, you want to...
Yes, I wanted to break the ice a little bit, find out a little bit about you and outside of your day-to-day. So it's going to be some lightning round questions. Very fun, meant to just literally break the ice.
Okay.
My first question is, if you're stranded on an island and there's only one type of dish that you would eat for the rest of your life, what would that be?
Bicolano dish. It's always gata
Gata?
and spice.
Okay.
Everything has to be
Spicy?
yeah. It's coconut milk
Yes.
and spicy food.
Okay. For the rest of your life.
Yes.
Okay.
I can eat Bicolano food every day, the rest of my life.
Okay, next is, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
It changes. Right now, I think it's salted caramel. For a long time, it was mint chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next is, if you had one superpower, what would it be and why?
You know, when I was still vice president, I really wished to have the power of invisibility. But right now,
That's intriguing.
Right now, I wish I would have the power to be in more places at the same time, so I can do a lot of things all at the same time.
I see. Okay. Next is, what is the most adventurous thing that you have ever done?
Marry my husband.
Wow.
And enter politics. I got married at a very young age. It was a whirlwind romance. And
How old were you then?
I was 20. I just turned 22, and I met my husband only for a few months.
Oh, wow.
Few months.
So it
Love
was
at
the
first
most
sight?
adventurous thing. It was a good thing. I was blessed with a very good husband.
Yes.
And after his death, entering politics. I was never the type.
Okay. And let me see if I have anything. What is your go-to karaoke song?
You know, I think of all the politicians in the Philippines, I am the only one who doesn't sing.
What, a Filipino who can't
Are you
sing?
sure you're Filipino?
You know, most of the politicians in the Philippines sing during public gatherings because, you know, you attract people.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm the only one who doesn't. But I do dance.
Okay.
You know, when you go to the barangays, social dancing is kind of a thing. And when my husband was still the politician in the family, he doesn't dance, but he sings. So I'm the one who dances for him.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Now that you're in the private, now that you're having a private life,
I still have a private life.
do you have more me time?
Yes.
Or you can do things just for yourself?
I think yes and no.
Okay. Tell us
yes,
about that.
yes, in the sense that when I was still with government, every time I get invited to speaking engagements, I go, then I travel, then I speak, and then I go home. Right now, especially if that's the first time I'm visiting the place, I do have the privilege of extending already. I don't have to hurry back home, and that has been a big blessing for all of us. Now that my children are working already, they now have the capacity to pay for their own travel. So whenever I get invited to a place we've never been to, we make it a point to extend for a few days and visit. So I love that, because that was one thing that I've always dreamed of doing, and we are able to do that now. But in terms of pursuing a hobby, reading all the books that are still stacked until now that I haven't read when I was still vice president, I haven't gotten to that yet.
Are you writing a book?
I am planning to, but I haven't started it yet.
I think Bacolano will be in that chapter. Yes. You like to give back to the community, and you have advocacies. And one thing that really close to your heart is Angat Buhay. Can you tell us more about it?
Angat Buhay is Tagalog for uplifting lives. All my life, I have been a development worker. when I was still a lawyer, when I was still studying law. I studied law while I was married already. I became a lawyer when I had 2 kids already. I think both my father and my husband were the inspiration to pursue a more public life. So when I became a lawyer, I knew that I wanted public service lawyering. So my first work as a lawyer was with the public attorney's office. So we represented people who did not have the means to hire their own lawyers to defend them.
Parang public defender.
Yeah, public defender.
So more a criminal case or more of...
More criminal.
Okay.
More criminal. But after a short stint with the public attorney's office, I discovered a non-government organization. The name is long. It's Sentro ng Alternatibong Linga Panlegal, or Saligan for short. It's an NGO of lawyers. But it's not traditional lawyering. It's alternative lawyering in the sense that we go to the poorest of communities, communities who do not have access to lawyers, who do not have access to justice, marginalized sectors like farmers, fisher folks, indigenous people. So these were the clients we were catering to. So what we did was legal education, preparing them to know the law with the belief that if they know their rights under the law, they will be in a better position to fight for their rights. So I was with Saligan for more than 10 years. So it sort of shaped who I am, or who I became as a public servant. So that when my husband died, it sort of became the mantra that we had to live by. I knew that I had bigger responsibilities to fulfill because my husband's life was taken away so suddenly. So I was left with the responsibility to take his place. But I knew that deep inside, I was more a development worker than a politician. And I feel like it helped. It helped that I was able to chart my own course as a politician and there was no pressure at all to do the ways of politics that were there traditionally. So I feel like the first government position that I held was as a member of Congress. So most of the bills that I filed were in furtherance of the advocacies, like our advocacies for farmers, for fisher folk, for women and children. When I became vice president, I knew that, in the Philippines, for those of you who are not familiar, the office of the vice president does not have any real mandate aside from succession. So that if nothing happens to the president, all the vice president does is ceremonial.
Yeah.
Is that common among all the countries?
It's
or is
no,
that
no,
just
no.
in the Philippines?
In the United States, the vice president is the presiding officer of the Senate.
Oh,
Yes.
But in the Philippines, no. So I wasn't at all willing to spend 6 years just doing ceremonial work. So as soon as I became vice president, we launched Angat Buhay as an anti-poverty program with the attempt to reinvent the office of the vice president and convert it from a mere ceremonial office into a more advocacy-heavy office. And we became relevant in 6 years because we were doing a lot of work. The problem with that is that because it is not within our mandate, there was no budget for it. So we had to be creative. But when I say we had to be creative, we devised a way to make it seem like we were a conduit between communities needing help and private organizations wanting to help.
Yeah, you mentioned about
we were doing those things
helping communities, the farmers and the fisher folks. I actually volunteered for Advancement for Rural Kids. It's based in Capiz, Capiz in New York. And what I like about the program is that it's not a handout.
Yeah.
You actually partner. With Angat Buhay, is it the same thing? Or
Yes.
how do you help?
We don't believe in handouts. with Saligan before, we always work to make communities more empowered. So the work that we do is very empowering. We don't do dole-outs like many politicians do. What we do is we capacitate. We capacitate the communities. In fact, when we adopt communities, we require the local chief executive to go through a bridging leadership program with us. We partner with academic institutions to do the training for us. Because I was vice president for only 6 years, and we don't want to start something that's not sustainable. So whenever we start projects, there's a commitment from the community that beyond our term, those projects will continue.
Yeah.
Because if they will not continue, then it's a total waste of resources. So it's really, from our end, it's more capacity building. It's really preparing the community to, the absorptive capacity of the community to get help from outside sources. So it's mainly that. We don't do medical missions for the sake of medical missions.
Yeah.
Where do you get your money to run your foundation? How do you raise funds?
We partner. We partner with local organizations. One thing, the realization in the Philippines is that there are so many people who want to help, but don't know how.
Yeah.
So we provide that platform. So here in the US, we partner with Angat Buhay USA, led by Roger Santos.
Yeah.
They were angkop, and then we partner with them. They became Angat Buhay, and they've been helping us with many of our programs. So that's how it works.
Can foreign governments
we
fund
do
you?
partner.
Okay.
We do partner with embassies in the Philippines. So, for example, the embassy of the U.S. helps us train youth leaders. Most of these youth leaders are in Mindanao, so it's really promoting peace and stability in Mindanao. So the U.S. Embassy helps us. We partner with the Swedish Embassy. We partner with the British Embassy. So we partner with a lot of embassies in Manila.
And one of the pillars of Angat Buhay I saw was public health.
Yes.
So I'm one of the board members of a group in the Philippines based in Palawan called Roots of Health, or Ugat ng Kalusugan. What has Angat Buhay done to really help connect with reproductive health education?
When I was still vice president, one of the biggest problems of the Philippines is teenage pregnancy.
Exactly. Yes.
So we partnered with UNFPA, doing a lot of education programs in the communities where the rates of teenage pregnancies are high. So it's mostly education, capacity building, involving the communities to be more empowered to combat the rise of teenage pregnancies. And then when the pandemic arrived, we shifted to a teleconsult platform.
Yes.
Where the intent then was to help decongest the hospitals. I don't know if you've read it, but at the height of the pandemic, a lot of Filipinos were dying and couldn't be admitted to hospitals because hospitals were too congested. So we wanted to help, and we created a free teleconsult platform. And I think the most wonderful thing that happened there was that we had more than 2,000 volunteers. Half of these volunteers were doctors. Half of these volunteers were non-medical volunteers who were doing who were doing all the tech-related back-end work of it. We were able to help hundreds of thousands of patients through our teleconsultation programs. And then when the COVID cases started decreasing, surprisingly, mental health cases were on the rise.
Yeah. Surprisingly,
So right
unsurprisingly.
Yeah. So right now, we call the program Bayanihan I-Consulta. If before we were mostly doing COVID patient consultations, now it's mainly mental health.
What are the mental health issues of
A lot.
Filipinos face?
There's a lot. But it's alarming, but I think it's also positive that more people are seeking help.
Yes.
Because before, stigma was very high as far as mental cases are concerned. But right now, we have a long list of teleconsult patients. We have thousands of volunteers still, but we really lack mental health practitioners in the Philippines.
Yes, even here, where it's sorely lacking of
So,
people of color
yeah.
who are practitioners.
We partner with a lot of mental health organizations. We partner with counselors. We partner with psychologists. But the consultation, most of the consultations, most of the consultants would recommend them to talk to a medical practitioner or a psychiatrist. But that's what we lack.
There's so many nonprofit organizations and so many charitable places. And do you think there's hope for our people in the Philippines that their lives will be uplifted or get out of poverty?
I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful because we see that with Angat Buhay, that there are so many people who want to help. But it can't be just Angat Buhay. It has to be an all-of-society approach. And ideally, it should be government spearheading that approach. Meaning to say, if government takes the lead, and if government is inspiring, a lot of people will join the movement.
By government, you mean social welfare?
Not really. It can be national government as a whole because it happened in 1986. In 1986, when most people were so inspired by the change that was happening, civil society was very active, and at that time, civil society was working very, very closely with government. But that stayed on only for a while, and because if people are uninspired, there are so few who want to work with government.
Yeah, not really motivated.
So for example, with Angat Buhay, we're doing a lot of things, but we're a very small organization.
What's Angat Buhay in Angat Pinas, Pilipinas? Angat Pinas.
When I ended, Angat Buhay is the program.
Okay.
So when I ended my term as vice president, we wanted to continue with Angat Buhay because it was such a waste to just end it because I ended my term. And we wanted Angat Buhay to be an NGO, but when we were trying to register Angat Buhay as an NGO, somebody else used Angat Buhay already. So we couldn't register the name Angat Buhay, so we made it Angat Pinas, and Angat Pinas is the official name of the organization, but Angat Buhay is a program of Angat Pinas.
Are you all over the country? In
Yes,
every
we
province,
are.
in every region?
Yes, we are. Wherever, the difference with Angat Buhay now, from Angat Buhay when I was still VP, is that when I was still VP, we were doing everything. So because of the campaign, it inspired a lot of, especially very young people, to participate. So right now, we already have a huge army of volunteers. So wherever we have volunteers, we have Angat Buhay programs. So what we do is we empower the volunteer, the network of volunteers to be the implementers of Angat Buhay programs. We encourage them to organize themselves into non-political groups because they were political groups during the campaign. We encourage them to be non-political already and then just partner with Angat Buhay because we felt like, the initial plan was to convert them into Angat Buhay chapters. But we feel like it was not empowering at all.
Yeah.
Because if they were just Angat Buhay chapters, then they would always be waiting for the Angat Buhay central office to pass on projects with them. But right now, we're encouraging them to do projects of their own and then take a look at what we're doing now. And then if they're interested to partner with us, they can. So right now, a lot of our programs are being implemented on the ground by our volunteers. It has been so easy for us because we don't have to go all the time anymore. And it's been encouraging a lot of young people to be involved in community work.
It's Philippines. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask you something about what's going on around the world?
Okay.
We have conflicts like Russia and Israel. As a mother, how do you feel? What are your thoughts about these developments?
Of course, even if I think even if I was not a mother, it's a scary thing. But the politics aside, it's a humanitarian concern. Conflicts, I believe, cannot be solved by violence. If at all, violence exacerbates the problem. The fact that so many civilians are getting killed are getting involved, and they shouldn't be, we all have to take a stand.
Yeah.
And you know, it makes us sad that a lot of things happening around are even, you know, there's a lot of disinformation that's making things worse. It's a sad thing that all of this are happening now, and it makes the world a very scary place to live in.
If someone would approach you and say, like, what would be your legacy? Like, what if people would thinking of Leni Robredo, what do you want it to know you as?
As someone who did her best to take advantage of whatever little has been given to her. I always tell this to, you know, when I was still VP, most of the members of my staff were very young people. And because of the political situation back then in the Philippines, I was getting pushed aside by the administration. A lot of barriers were being thrown our way. I was telling them, you know, because these are very young people and they get frustrated. You know, they get discouraged, and I always tell them, you know, sometimes the difficulties become blessings, and that's how life is. You are measured by how much you have, you know, you have taken advantage of whatever is given to you. So I was telling them, instead of being discouraged, we have to look at this as opportunities for us to show our countrymen what we can do despite what is being thrown our way. So I always tell them that, you know, we don't have to spend time weeping over things that aren't there or things that we have been deprived of, but look at what we have been given and how we have taken advantage of what has been given to us, how we were able to maximize everything that has been there. And, you know, with the benefit of hindsight, we just had a reunion during Valentine's Day of this year, and most of them are very, very thankful that was the, you know, that was the direction that we asked them to take. Because a lot of things, because you're being pushed to the side, you're very competitive. We always wanted to be the best in everything. You know, within a year after we assumed office, we already got our ISO certification. We have been topping all the COA audit reports during the entire course of my vice presidency. We have been, you know, we have been recognized for many of our programs, and I think it's not the recognition itself, but the fact that it is a testament to the hard work of so many people. I get all the credit for it, but it's really so unfair to the team because you know, we were able to deliver so much given the very little that we had.
Can you say that you're finally turning your back on politics or public service?
No. I think I will always be a public servant. Running again is another question. You know, for so long, especially when my husband was still alive, when I was being asked, will you run? And my answer always be over my dead body.
Oh my goodness.
But, you know, I've eaten my word so many times and I won't make that mistake again. So I won't say no. Right now, I think I'm living my best life. I'm in the private sector, but I am still able to do the advocacies that are close to my heart. But the future is there. So if there comes a time that there is a need for me to run, I will. But I don't think that, you know, I think there are a lot of better people other than myself. I don't have a monopoly of good intentions. I don't have a monopoly of talents. So there are people who are also worthy. So
name some.
there are a lot.
Name
there are
one.
a lot of, you know, there are a lot of
And
good
name one
people.
in 30 seconds. Just running.
There are a lot of good people in government.
Yeah. That's true.
Well, quick question for a quick answer, 15 seconds. Is Philippines on the right track?
No.
Sad, but we're gonna
That's
end
the
it that way. So we're not on the right track.
We're
but
not
there
on
is
the right
hope.
track, but there is hope.
Okay. So, thank you so much po. Maraming salamat.
Thank you,
Thank you. Thank you for
Robredo.
having me.
That's,
Thanks for coming down. And
yes.
It's
guesting
always a
on our
pleasure.
show.
It's always a pleasure.
And that wraps up our panel discussion.